For every good advert, there's bound to be a bad one out there. Video game adverts are unfortunately not exempt from this rule. In my 30-plus years, I've seen my fair share. Enough at least to come up with this list. Welcome to the top 10 worst video game commercials.
I hope you watchers are ready, because these commercials are total shit.
Just a heads up, for the exception of one, most of these ads are for products that are already bad, so ironically, they're quite appropriate. Let's roll them.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 10. The Gamecom Dwarf. If you know about this handheld console, then you probably know that the company behind it also made all those crappy LCD games from the late 80s and early 90s. I could actually make an entire video talking about those, but that's beside the point. Anyway, do y'all want to know what gamers don't like? Being insulted, and this commercial goes all out in roasting its potential buyers right from the get-go. The dwarf starts by calling everyone in the crowd a slacker, then he mumbles on about the features the Gamecom has, whilst calling the audience a bunch of idiots.
Because, you know, all gamers are lazy morons who'll buy damn near anything. While that might be true for some, it's not true for most.
Save except those poor few who legit bought a Gamecom thinking it would be good.
Seriously though, the Gamecom is absolutely terrible, and it's actually worthy of a video all its own, too. Oh well, at least the kids that the dwarf was insulting get their revenge by driving the stage. But mind y'all, that's about the only good thing this commercial has going for it.
Tough guy. Little help here. I have a surprise for all the slackers, but nothing better to do than play games and surf the net all day. Gamecom! Lay those bloodshot eyes on these babies! It speaks!
Let's rock.
Begs to be touched! Wires you to the internet! And it plays more games than you idiots have brain cells! Any questions? Then play! Idiot! Next question! How about compatibility? Question! How much does it cost? Let's get 'em!
Gamecom, the ultimate portable gaming system.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 9. The Crazy Zelda Guy.
Yep, even Nintendo managed to fart out a bad commercial.
And for a Zelda game, too. It is pretty low on the list, but still.
A lot of other folks would say that the Zelda rap advert was bad, but I actually liked that one. Hell, it was good enough that Nintendo did it twice again. Once with Link to the Past, and then another time with Link's Awakening. Anyway, this commercial sucks because of the man that you're seeing in the video. He's just this insane-looking, twacked-out retard shouting Zelda at the top of his lungs. Who the fuck thought that this was a good idea? Some folks have speculated that this dumbass is supposed to be Link. I really hope that isn't the truth, because if it is, then Zelda and Hyrule are pretty much doomed. One final thing that makes this a terrible ad is the fact that it was for the very first Zelda game. Thankfully, it wasn't the only ad for Zelda 1, but if it had been, the Zelda franchise would probably not be as big as it is today.
Watch Zelda become a legend on your Nintendo Entertainment System.
Zelda! After rocks! Which way to go? Good times! Peahens! Levers! Zelda! Zelda! Zelda!
The Legend of Zelda. A never-ending adventure new for your Nintendo Entertainment System.
Zelda!
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 8. The Jaguar Barf Kid. To those of y'all who don't know, the Jaguar was Atari's ill-fated last console, their final effort of trying to get back in the good graces of the general gaming public in the 90s. Unfortunately, the Jaguar didn't meet the expectations that the Atari execs had hoped it would, and they pulled the plug on it sometime in mid-1996.
In other words, it was a failed console. I know Redneck has a soft spot for the Jaguar, but I personally feel that it was trash.
Most of Jaguar's adverts were okay, but this one's shit because it has the kid just randomly puke right onto the camera lens.
I get what the commercial was going with. It's gross out humor, and while I'm not above liking that kind of stuff, I do believe that it must be handled properly in order for it to actually be funny. In this commercial's case, it's painfully unfunny, and it just comes off as randomly disgusting. It's like, hey everyone, buy a Jaguar with graphics so real they'll make you retch. Had this have been the only advert for the Jaguar, I'm pretty sure no one would have bought it. It's that bad, folks.
Here's Benjamin Hall on the Jaguar system to play Cybermorph. Let's see how those beastly graphics and intricate moves that only come from 64 bits of Mega Power feel. Then, Cybermorph only on Jaguar by Atari. Get bit by Jaguar.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 7. Mighty Number 9's Cry Like an Anime Fan on Prom Night. Oh goody! Another commercial that insults its potential customers. Only this one's 2 points ahead of the Gamecom dwarf, so it's much worse.
Wait, did you just say Mighty Number 9? Oh boy, I remember what a shit show that ended up being.
Shasta has a point. Long story short, Mighty Number 9 was supposed to be a spiritual successor to Mega Man. It even had the guy who created Mega Man working on it. Unfortunately, it went through a lot of development problems as well as some PR problems. As Shasta said, it was a shit show. Not helping matters was the fact that one of the game's very few commercials decided to talk down to its audience like they were a bunch of derpy toddlers. It's the quote towards the end of the commercial that really feels disrespectful, though. Cry like an anime fan on prom night. Like, seriously? Maybe the creators of this ad didn't know that most fans of Mega Man are anime fans, but I think that would be giving them undeserved benefit of the doubt.
I actually have a lot to say about Mighty Number 9, but I'd like to review at least a couple Mega Man games before that. Anyway, here's the advert in its entirety.
Hey, you, looking at the screen. Let me ask you a question. Do you like awesome things that are awesome? Then you gotta play this game, dude. It's friggin' cool and crazy addictive, like popping bubble wrap addictive. Check this out. See, that's your dash move. There's a short dash, a long dash, jump dash, spiral, slide. There's probably a dash that makes you breakfast. I don't know.
Great idea. Wait, what?
Point is, you're dashing around like a friggin' moon man, and I love it. Oh, and look at this. There's all these combo moves you can do. Then you can do combos on combos to rack up your score. And I know you like that combo on combo action. But I saved the best for last. Absorption boost. You kill an enemy, and you can absorb their power-ups. Stuff that'll make you faster and stronger, and make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night. So what do you think? You ready to play? I'm ready. No one's talking to you, Vernon! Mighty Number 9.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 6. Bram Stoker's Dracula, It's Just a Game. Y'all folks already know that movie-based games are almost sure to suck. Perhaps this proverbial window is starting to close in current time, but back in the 90s, bad movie-based games were practically a rule.
I say that as a guy who grew up in the 90s and remembers renting some of those from the video store. I thought the movie was great. In fact, I think it's one of Frank Coppola's best. But the video game adaptations leave a lot to be desired.
It also didn't matter which version you got either, be it the Genesis/SNES, the Sega CD, or the NES version, because they were all equally horrible. Yet for some reason, Psygnosis, the main devs behind the games, went all out and released a few adverts. While one of the adverts was okay, albeit nothing special, this one sucks because it's so fucking stupid. It starts off with this random dumbass about ready to take a dump. Then his boss storms in and tells dumbass to work harder. Then finally at the end, dumbass stands over his boss, acting like he's gonna stab him with a carrot. Like I said, it's stupid as hell. Why would you reference the first Psycho movie when your game is based on a Dracula movie? The equivalent would be if they were to make a game based off the Texas Chainsaw franchise, but one of the commercials for it makes a reference to fucking Candyman. Makes no sense. Also, that tagline, "It's just a game," is idiotic because apparently for dumbass, it wasn't just a game, hence why he wanted to up and shank his boss.
Not only that, but the commercial seems like it was made by amateurs who really had no idea what they were doing. From the looks of it, they seem to have had enough money for a camera and a studio. They probably went cheap for a director and writer more than likely.
Well, what the heck you doing in here? You see this? It's called a carrot. Now get out there and uncrate them! $2 an hour, he's a Gerardo. He's a king.
Dracula from Sony ImageSoft. Sure, it's just a game.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 5. Tiger R-Zone's false advertising. Y'all remember at number 10 when I was talking about the Gamecom? Well, that was only one of Tiger's consoles. They made another, and believe it or not, it was far worse than the Gamecom. Enter the R-Zone, pun intended. Like how Tiger copied the Game Boy, they also copied the Virtual Boy.
To those of you who don't know, the Virtual Boy was Nintendo's failed attempt at creating a VR system. This was back in the mid-90s, however, so the technology just simply wasn't there to make the console good.
Since Shasta mentioned it, the Virtual Boy itself actually ended up becoming kind of removed from VR, save except for the fact that you had to play it close up to your eyes. Unfortunately, this one feature from the Virtual Boy ended up becoming a design flaw for the first version of the R-Zone.
In other words, you had to pretty much perform strange ocular gymnastics to even play the first version of the R-Zone. This quote-unquote console has a lot of problems that I'd love to talk about, but let's just say what makes its commercial so bad is the fact that it makes you think you'd be getting something powerful when you're in fact getting a system that plays LCD games. Nah, I'm not even trying to be funny. The R-Zone's games were LCD games that were colored red and had no backgrounds. Fortunately, most folks saw past the smoke and mirrors with this advert, which probably was one of the reasons Tiger made different iterations of the R-Zone. I can't believe they thought consumers were this dumb.
Are you ready to run Daytona? Vanquish a virtual fighter. Dispense some justice in Virtua Cop? Then it's time for some fist-in-your-face reality as all three rip into the R-Zone. Blast your way through Virtua Cop.
Here come the bad guys!
Tear up the tar at Daytona.
Checkpoint, checkpoint!
And prepare to meet your virtual master.
It's Giraffe!
All R-Zone cartridges play on the R-Zone and the R-Zone Super Screen.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 4. The Pakistani McDonald's Sonic Happy Meal ad. Try saying that 5 times fast. Anyway, technically I'm kind of cheating putting this commercial on the list because it's more of a commercial for fast food. But Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and others from their franchise are in it, so it counts.
Now, to be honest, they are actually advertising for LCD games here, but that's not what makes this commercial such shit. It's that god-awful animation just by itself.
I know it might seem petty that we listed this simply for the animation, but just look at it. I've seen primary school projects with more effort put into them than this.
Either the animators behind this had no money to work with, or they were tripping balls. I really don't know which, because there's absolutely no info on this ad and why it is the way it is. I want to believe that it was money related, because, let's face it, Pakistan isn't exactly a wealthy nation. But if it ever comes out that the animation team was high off their asses, I won't be surprised. This looks like something you'd see after eating way too many magic mushrooms and then playing Sonic Heroes. It's admittedly kind of funny. Never would I have thought that the Sonic meme would ever be animated. In saying that, however, I believe this commercial predates that meme by at least almost a decade. Anyway, the ad sucks because, again, the animation. Sonic and his buddies look like mere existence for them is nothing but pain and terror. Like they're all a bunch of twisted marionettes brought to life by a witch doctor. It's so bad, it's scary.
आओ चलकर हैप्पी मील खाए और मैकडॉनल्ड्स से सेकंड गिफ्ट्स लाए टेल सॉकर सोनिक स्केटबोर्ड रोग एंड एमी टेनिस क्रीम पफ फ्लावर कैच शैडो बास्केटबॉल नकल्स बेसबॉल जी भरकर फिर खेलें, खूब हल्ला गुल्ला मचाएं और दोस्तों को भी बतलाएं। चलो चलकर हैप्पी मील खाएं। चलो चले मैकडॉनल्ड्स से सैका गेम्स लाएं।
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 3. Ouya's I could have bought food. Well, at least for this commercial, the tagline doesn't lie. If you're one of the unlucky few who actually bought this console, you could have bought quite a bit of food with the money that it cost you.
The Ouya was supposed to be this grand, open-source, economical console that was mainly gonna support indie games. Sounds like a good idea on paper, but in reality, the Ouya was little more than a consoleized Android phone that couldn't really support many indie games.
If you can't tell, Shasta and I have a lot to say about the Ouya. I want to review it, but I don't think I actually can now, seeing as how the servers for it have been shut down for a few years. Anyway, the commercial has this crying, scruffy-looking guy in his drawers bitching about how he just dropped $60 on the newest Call of Duty game. Okay, for the mid to late 7th generation, making fun of COD and its numerous clones was okay because the market was oversaturated. But then once the 8th generation took off, taking pot shots at COD was superfluous, seeing as how that series was now past its prime. Granted, the Call of Duty joke is only a minor thing that makes this commercial bad. The worst part is when the scruffy guy decides he's gonna flood his entire house with his own puke, then he pulls out his spine MK style and proceeds to beat himself over the head with it. Strangely enough, this advert never aired on TV, which is weird, because it seems like it would have fit right in, being shown on Adult Swim. But yeah, this was only shown on places like YouTube. From what I've heard, this commercial got quite a bit of negative feedback, and the guys behind the Ouya tried very hard to disassociate from it. How do you like that? An advert so bad that even the company that made it wants nothing to do with it. One of these days I'll take a deeper look into the Ouya and its sordid history, but until then, enjoy this awfulness.
$60? This game sucks! They screwed me! It's exactly the same game! Oh, God! $60? Oh, they did it to me again! I could have bought food! Ouya!
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 2. The PSP rap. One of the big reasons for why I genuinely hate this particular commercial is because it advertises for one of the best handheld consoles ever made. The PSP was an awesome system. and it ended up becoming an RPG powerhouse, even more so than the DS.
This commercial, however, does it no justice, and that's me trying to be as nice as I possibly can.
Oh, just come out and say it, Redneck. This commercial is peak cringe, and it makes the PSP look like a fucking joke.
Shasta's right. Firstly, this ad seems like it was made on the budget of a ham sandwich. The video quality is noticeably bad, like it was filmed with a cheap camcorder. Another thing that alludes to the cheapness is the commercial setting, as if it was shot in some random person's apartment. Did Sony really not have the money for a half-assed decent camera and studio? Apparently they didn't, because even the rapper in this commercial can't rap to save his life. This is the kicker, the thing that really makes this commercial cringeworthy. This dude is so awful that he makes Little Dicky look good by comparison. Where the fuck did they find this bozo? You can't tell me that a multinational, multi-million-dollar company like Sony couldn't produce something better. Had I have been the one making this commercial, I'd have filmed in a studio with a better camera, and I would have gotten some rappers who were competent. There were tons to choose from in 2005 when the PSP was released. I'd have gotten like Wu-Tang Clan, or Ghetto Boys, or hell, ICP. That would have been the tits.
Fortunately, the PSP had quite a bit of good adverts, but it's the fact that Sony greenlit this and then put it on TV. I can only hope that the creators of this advert were either fired or had their shit straightened out. Either way, this one was hella close to being number one.
I love the big screen, so fresh and so clean. It's all in my dreams. It makes me wanna scream. PSP, 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 PSP. Game so crazy, they totally amaze me. Gotta ask my mom for one. For Shizzy, PSP, PSP. PSP. All I want for Christmas is my PSP. Wanna play when I'm walking down the street. All I want for Christmas is my PSP. Come on, mom and dad, get one for me. PSP, 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 PSP.
Wow, that was the worst piece of crap I've ever seen.
Number 1. The Pro 200 infomercial. By now, y'all have probably realized that I don't have a very high opinion on LCD games, to put it mildly.
But at the same time, when the fuck will I ever talk about this thing again?
If you can believe it, the Pro 200 is even a little below those Tiger-made LCD games because it only uses squares for graphics. Hey, at least those Tiger games had a background and some semblance to graphics. The only other feature the Pro 200 has is that it's also a calculator. I guess so you could, like, do your homework and play a game at the same time? I don't know. I know one thing, though. This commercial is just as bad as the Pro 200 itself. Firstly, the commercial states that the console has 200 individual games. This is a lie, because it actually only has 16 games broken up into several different modes. Secondly, the commercial states that the Pro 200 is not sold in stores. This again is a lie, because it was sold in stores, and for far less money. If you called in, you would be spending upwards of around 25 to 26 bucks. This is in stark contrast from the 8 to 9 buck range that the Pro 200 was sold for in like Walmart or Target. The worst part about this commercial is how it has the balls to compare itself to a Super Nintendo game. I'm not kidding. In the commercial, you see someone throwing a Super NES copy of Street Fighter II in the trash. Like, are you serious? Your shitty little LCD handheld is better than Street Fighter II on the Super Nintendo? I can't believe that they actually did that. Though am I really surprised? This commercial also says in the same breath, and in bold lettering, never buy another cartridge. It should be noted that this commercial aired around mid-1998. Not only was the SNES discontinued by this point, but cartridges were quickly being phased out by discs. You could make the argument that there were still folks playing their 4th gen games, but 1998 was deep in the 5th gen. Far more 5th gen games were being played back then.
One thing I'd like to add is how malicious this commercial is. It practically preys on elderly people who would be too oblivious to know what they're actually buying. They don't really play video games after all. That's the work of scoundrels when an advert is actively trying to swindle someone out of money. It's the video game equivalent of snake oil.
Hey, what do you got there?
It's a video game, has over 200 games.
Cool, 200 games?
That's right! Over 200 games can be yours with Pro 200, the greatest bargain in computer game history. 256 action-packed games all in this one compact unit. And with 15 skill levels for each game, there are more than 2,000 ways to play. Through this special TV offer, you can get the Pro 200 for just $19.98. That's less than 10 cents per game. Play games like Space War, Ping Pong, Race Car, Shooting Attack, and much more. This new computer chip technology replaces older cartridge games forever. Never ever buy those expensive cartridges again. You'll get the Pro 200 with over 200 games for only $19.98, a fraction of what you'd pay for those older systems. But that's not all. The Pro 200 is also a full-function calculator and is not available in stores. Here's how to order.
For fast delivery of Pro 200 with over 200 computer games, call 1-800-257-1234 or send $19.98 plus shipping and handling to the address on your screen.
Well, that list sure was a giant shit sandwich that we all had to take a bite of. I'm glad it's over, though, because now we get to move on to the fun stuff. The top 10 weirdest video game commercials are coming next, and I'll see y'all in the next video.